One thing we have consistently heard from other expats who've moved to Ecuador or who are thinking about moving here, and we certainly experienced this ourselves, is the emotional roller coaster.
That is the truth. You're going to have good days where maybe you're envisioning yourself sipping coffee on a street side cafe, enjoying all the incredible architecture, the different sounds, different languages. It's all romanticized, or you're meandering through a beautiful meadow with a bunch of wild flowers. But then you're going to have the bad days.
Yeah, you're going to have bad days full of what ifs. Like, what if I'm making a huge mistake? What if I get homesick? What if I don't make any friends and I'm lonely? What if I don't feel safe? What if I get sick? What if I can't communicate? What if I absolutely hate it?
Accept the fact that there will be emotional ups and downs, but don't get lost in the good or dwell on the bad.
Yeah, so in this video, we're going to help you do that. We're going to give you some tips that will help you avoid the emotional roller coaster, or at least keep it under control so it doesn't affect your decision to move abroad.
Our first tip is to define your big why.
Yeah, for us, a big why was to lower our cost of living because we just couldn't afford to live in the US, especially with the cost of healthcare. This is a big reason for a lot of people to move away from a country like the United States and Canada, is because you can drastically reduce your cost of living.
Yes, maybe a big why for you is that you want a higher quality of life in general. You want to not worry about making ends meet. You want to have some more flexibility in your life. You want to meet new people and learn a new language. I don't know. The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, and part of that is also the better and more affordable healthcare. If you're coming from the United States, you will understand this. Most other countries don't have this problem. It's pretty unique to the United States. And one of the major big whys for why we left, because we just couldn't afford health insurance or health care anymore.
We've met multiple people who have come here telling us that they chose to retire early, that they did not want to wait until they were 70 to start their retirement, and they had enough money to move abroad and retire here in Ecuador. So that's an excellent why for a lot of you out there.
Yeah, because you might have enough money to retire in a low cost of living country, but not a high cost of living country. So you can claim back decades of your life just by moving abroad.
Yeah, and that was one of the other things that JP and I came to the conclusion. Part of our big why was the fact that after JP's health issues, we did not want to put our lives on hold. We're not retired, but we knew we could still have a higher quality of life by moving to a lower cost country.
The next big why for you might be that you can leave a job that you hate, or you can convert that job online and not have to deal with office politics.
Yes, I highly recommend that. Since I still work online, it's nice to have that flexibility. And one of the things we love about Ecuador is that the internet is very reliable and the time zone change is minimal.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ways to earn income online. That's pretty much how I earn my living now, is through our YouTube channel and blogs and other things that I do online. But there's lots of things you can do, like create courses, teach language, English online, and there's just so many different things that you can do now.
Yes, you can come here and reinvent yourself, which also could be a big why.
Another big why might be the adventure, the exciting adventure of moving abroad and changing your whole life. It is an incredible experience and very life-changing.
Yes, but as we mentioned, it definitely can be a roller coaster. So we recommend that you write down your reasons for moving abroad and keep them handy for those days when you are in the low point of your roller coaster ride.
Our next tip is to identify what your true fear really is.
Yes, I struggled with fear before we moved to Ecuador, and even while we were still getting settled. And a lot of my fear came around the unknown and the uncertainty. And let me tell you, I definitely was on that roller coaster ride because I just didn't know what to expect. I was afraid. I was afraid that things weren't going to go the way we planned, and maybe the internet wasn't going to work, and so I wasn't going to be able to keep my job. I was really worried we weren't going to be able to find a house that would take our dogs. I mean, you guys, I stressed out about everything before we got here and when we got here. I was worried that I wasn't going to like it, and that then what would we do? Oh my gosh, we're here in Ecuador. I was freaking out about everything.
Yeah, I think she also suffered with the loss of control. And that's one thing when you move abroad, you do relinquish some of the control you have, especially if you live a very structured lifestyle where you are now or back in the US. You have to trust in the process and kind of let go of the outcome sometimes. And like, especially when you get your visas, a lot of Americans expect immediate responses, and it's just a different culture around things here. Things take longer. People aren't as communicative. They don't volunteer information. So that loss of control can really stress you out.
Yeah, I was really freaking out that I was going to have to go back to the U.S. for work and that I wasn't going to be able to get back into the country. Okay, none of this happened.
Yeah, none of
And I also had to remind myself that if things didn't work out in Ecuador, we could go someplace else. So I had to face my fears, which was a good thing. But another one of those fears that I just kind of laughed at, this were not our fears, but family fears, and friends and family will often pressure you into trying to stay in your home country.
Yeah, your family and friends will be fearful of you moving abroad
Yes.
because they have their own fear of the unknown, and they just are projecting that onto you. So you're going to be prepared for a little pushback from those who love you. Just know that they love you and they worry about you, but they just don't know, because we've kind of been misled by the media and Hollywood and TV shows that it's like the Wild West and it's completely dangerous and there's no rule of law here, and it couldn't be further from the truth. It's just not like it's made out to be, and that's what their perceptions are based on.
Exactly. One of the things that helped me in the beginning was reminding myself that these are ordinary people who want to live their lives just like everybody else we know in the United States that wants to live their lives. Everybody wants the same things, right? We want food, we want shelter, we want to be safe, we want a nice, healthy, happy lifestyle.
So the key here is just to pinpoint what your true fears are, because once you identify them and kind of hang a banner on them, they lose their power and it just takes the wind right out of their sails. The next tip is a psychological life hack about cognitive diffusion or disidentification, and there are whole books written on these topics, so we're not going to go into that much detail, but with a little tip, you can kick that fear to the curb pretty easily.
Yeah, when we first got to Ecuador, to Cuenca, JP had a lot of fear. He was really worried that he was going to fall and seriously hurt himself.
Yeah, because there's slick tiles everywhere. I would say, and with my spine issues, I was really concerned that if I did fall and hurt myself, that we wouldn't know what to do or who to go see. So I definitely had some issues around that. And a friend of ours recommended that I go see a psychologist in Cuenca. She was highly educated and her focus was in cognitive behavioral therapy. So she kind of helped me rewire my thought processes around that. She also helped get me connected up with doctors who spoke English. So I got a general doctor and a neurosurgeon and a physical therapist, and she helped with all of that. But the main thing she did was help me reprogram my brain with giving me some tricks to change my negative thoughts to positive thoughts. And one visualization that I like to do is what I call the get off the bus please visualization. And if I catch myself having some sort of a fear or emotional response to something, I visualize myself stopping the bus and opening the door and asking the fear to get the hell off my bus, please. And then I also sometimes picture a positive thought or a positive reframe of that, getting on the bus, and then I close the door and I drive away. And that helps kind of disidentify or distance yourself from the fear, and it makes it less personal. It's less about who you are. It's just an unwanted passenger, and you just kick it off.
Our next tip is to accept your fear. I definitely had to accept my fear. I've had more than my share of fears throughout my life because I am a worrier, and I had to keep reminding myself, Amelia, what is the worst that could happen? And Amelia, why do you keep obsessing about this? Face your fears and recognize that what it is just a fear. You're afraid of losing something. And I guess for me, like I mentioned earlier, that fear was losing control. And once I faced my fears, nothing was really that bad.
Yeah, fear is often driven by the anticipation that you're going to lose something, and that could be real or perceived. So the tip is to try to focus on what you'll be gaining, like adventure, freedom, flexibility, independence, less responsibility, new experiences and friendships, maybe even a new love interest.
I focused on what I would be gaining, and that was having, again, this new adventure, this exciting new chapter in my life. And living in another country has always been a dream to me, so that really helped push me through my fear.
The next tip is to educate yourself, which you're doing by watching our videos, so you're already got a head start above most people. When we first started thinking about moving abroad, I watched videos on YouTube, I read books and blogs, I tried to just consume as much information as I could, and then Amelia and I talked about it.
Yes, and I actually did a little bit of the same on my own, and I talked to a couple trusted friends because I wanted a little reassurance, and it helped immensely.
The next tip is to talk to people who've already done it, people who either live abroad now or lived abroad before.
Yes, I had a friend who had lived in Costa Rica with her husband and small children, and it was great to have her as a resource.
Yeah, and I knew a guy I worked with that had lived in, or that was living in Dominican Republic and had also lived in Costa Rica, and I just talked to him a lot about what it was like. They were from Southern California, and they left mainly because they couldn't afford to live there anymore, and their jobs were online, so they just moved.
So you can also join communities on Facebook or, of course, in our Patreon community to keep your finger on the pulse of current events and activities.
Yeah, groups like the Ecuador Expats, Cuenca Expats, Manta Expats community, and then there's the Expats and Amigos in Manta and Manabí, and there's Alone Life in Alone. There's lots of different Facebook groups, and they're all very active.
Yeah, Reddit's another good source too.
Yeah, Reddit is great, especially for general expat. There's some subreddits just for expats.
Our last tip is to hire trustworthy experts. You can do all of this stuff yourself, but moving abroad is very complicated, and we recommend you go with people who are in the know.
Yeah, a lot of moving abroad, especially to a country like Ecuador, is about the personal connections you have. So it really helps you to hire a visa agent who knows the government employees personally and brings them donuts on a regular basis. Also, somebody to help you ship a container, insurance brokers, private drivers. It's great to have trusted resources that can help you do all of this. And luckily, we have spent years gathering their names and contact info, and we'll be happy to send an introduction email to many of them through our website, liveabroadnow.com.
The roller coaster is very real. You will have good days and bad days, and sometimes you may be like me and filled with fear and anxiety.
Yeah, but it's such a fun and exciting experience. It really does change your life. And it doesn't have to be forever. That's something to keep in mind. It doesn't have to be forever, but it could change your life forever.